July the 9th, 2019 at 10:05 in council chambers. And we have to do this officially. We'll call the meeting to order. Introduction of late items? No. So I need a motion, please, to adopt the agenda. Thank you, Councillor Rhodes, Councillor King. All in favor? Thank you. And we have a delegation here today from the regional district. We have the CAO, Bill Newell, and Chair Carla Kozakovich, and Vice Chair Manfred Bauer. And we also have our Area A Director, Mark Pendergraft, along with staff and council. So I'm just going to open it up and to the meeting, and perhaps, Carla, did you want to speak first about why you've called us all here together?
Sure. Well, thank you, Mayor McCordoff, and thank you for hosting today. So, as you know, we like to do an annual outreach meeting, Chair, Vice Chair, CAO, tour to all of our member municipalities and include our neighboring electoral area directors, just to speak about what might be some shared issues, ideas, things we want to work on moving forward. So, you're probably number 4 on the list. We just met with Oliver yesterday, so that was great. So what we've done is produced an agenda, and we don't have to go by everything that's on here. If there's other things you would like to add to it, please do. Depending on how much time we have today, we'll see if we get through everything. We're always open to more meetings. So if you'd like us to come back another time, we'd love to.
Bill says no.
We could. But we would like to do this annually and always just touch base on some of our shared services and concerns region-wide. So was there anything that you wanted to add or take off the list?
Mr. Amenko?
Well, we've added some items onto the agenda that CAO Newell has added. So I think that's
so
unless council wants to add some more.
No, we're okay. And I don't have a copy of that, but that's all right. We'll deal with it.
It just got
this one.
And you're right. No.
This is the one that Mr. Newell.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's been added on to.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, that would be the updated one.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So, Sue, if we can just use first names.
Fine.
Is there anything on here that was a priority for you that you'd like to tackle first?
I'm wondering if the sub-regional water counselor services, is that was something that we just sent you a letter for last week, and it may be too soon to deal with that because we want to give the RDOS time to have a look at that issue, but that was fairly high on our list. And I think you've got a lot of things on there. Probably we need to. We looked at some of the ones. Yes, that we're going to look at, and ministers that we're going to go and hopefully have visits with. Is that's included in this? The top 5? Are those the 5 that?
The UBCM was just something I thought of afterwards that might be a good thing to discuss potential joint meetings.
Or at least know what, I mean, I know we got a list the other day at the RDOS of suggested meetings, and we have also got a list of meetings that we have asked for or are in the process of asking for, and some of them may overlap, and so I think we need to kind of share that, because we are dealing with Oliver, certainly on the health issue, the meeting with the Minister of Health, but I'm not sure about any of the others.
Right. Okay.
So,
so the letter that you sent us, Bill, have you had a chance to look into that?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
But Barry will have more information on it than I will.
Do you want to speak to it, Barry?
Well, I guess we can speak to it in the sense that we've been dealing with municipal affairs on the issue. They've identified a process that we're going through that process. And one of their suggested processes is the setting up of a service area and the appropriate legislation relating to it, and that's where we're at right now. And we're waiting for some additional information from Municipal Affairs yet.
Okay.
But it's a work in progress. It's going to take time in relation to the need for the province to change the order in council. You know, one of the questions that we in fact are asking the province is, do we have to go if all the stars are aligned and everybody's in agreement at the local and the at the regional district level? Do we have to go through a by-election process, or can we just go into the order and council change? And what will the province do? Potentially appoint a temporary member to get us through that bridging period. So those are all things that are being discussed right now.
Okay.
And it's a work in progress.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks. So you see the sort of the top 5 there. Those are the things that we've added because those are of concerns to us. I'm not sure whether there's things that we share, or did you want to go through?
Well, why don't we start with your top 5,
Okay.
since we're here to see you folks. So if you want to go ahead and work through those with us, would be great.
So the trail development to the north end of the lake, I mean, this is a tricky issue for us because we have trails in town and bike trails, and we've just got the okay from Bike BC. They've given us some money, so we're working towards one stretch that we don't have to get sort of from the east side to the west side without going on the highway. So that will be looked at. However, we do not have the ability to ride a bike through town and get onto the trail network, which is at the head of the lake. So that's kind of an issue that we think is important. And I think that we have trails over on, on the west side of the highway that go by the Desert Center, and then in order to match up with the other one, somehow you have to get across the highway. So we're looking at other options, are we?
Well, part of it is that the regional district has a trails master plan, and this a bike path from Osoyoos to Road 22 is in that master plan. And the solution for developing the trail is not as arduous as we think it is. There are some solutions that we are looking at now, and one of the opportunities that has come up is that there's just been a major $500,000 tourism grant that's been announced, and we feel that the opportunity to move on a trail, do some work with the Ministry of Transport to potentially even do bike lanes in two particular pinch points to bring the trail to the highway, but do bike lanes along this highway similar to what they did at Summerland. Mm-hmm. I think those are initiatives that need to be moved ahead if we are ever going to move this trail. The biking is a huge tourism activity. People want to bike in safe environments. We do have the regional district road system that can carry the bike traffic, but we've got some pinch points, and we have some options as well. And we don't know if there's any initiative being done relative to moving this section of trail ahead.
Okay, so when you referenced the $500,000 grant, was that the one that TOTA was given through?
No.
Oh,
There's a federal grant that's been announced probably about 2 months ago for major tourism projects, and it's a $500,000 grant. So accessing that will certainly assist in the whole process. So between accessing potentially that grant, the Bike BC grant, developing the relationship with Ministry of Transport, I think we have a good opportunity to move this project ahead. You know, they've been involved in other projects of doing bike lanes alongside of highways, and specifically the one in Summerland. So that discussion, that initiative, I think is a good one to pursue at this time.
And so have you requested a minister meeting on this?
No,
Okay.
we want to find out where our priorities sit within the within working with the regional district and the Trails Master Plan.
CJ, did you?
Just for clarity, it's important to know that this is well beyond our boundaries and our jurisdiction. As a town, we're limited as to what we can do there. And Barry referenced the master plan. All of the work has been done on it. The maps have been laid out, and all of the trail system has been clearly defined. The problem is that's as far as it went. It just kind of stopped right there. And we've been actively working on connectivity within our community, within our jurisdiction, and we got a nice little grant here a little while ago, and that'll help us, within our community. But that's a big gap in it, because once that's done, I believe that there's connectivity on that trail system all the way to Oliver, and then whatever happens from there. So this is kind of the last area, and somehow or another we got to get under or over or across the highway in some way, and that'll be the biggest challenge that we have with it. But we need to, try to re-energize all of that work that's been done in the past, is basically what I'm trying to say about that. So.
Right.
And it is regional district property we're talking about. And Myers is on you're on some kind of a special group about biking.
Well, just not really a special group. I've just been kind of working with Mark a little bit on it. So Mark's done quite a bit of work, and a study just was finished, I think, a couple of weeks ago when we met with the minister of Bassaw Lake to try about that section.
Talking Mark Woods?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So Mark has got a lot of that stuff laid out. I just haven't got back to set up another meeting, but I'm just kind of doing it on my own. But it's not really I'm looking at the whole trail, so you can come all the way from Sycamoose to here,
Right.
to make it viable, right? So I'm looking at a little bit bigger picture. But I know Mark's done a lot of work and has all the maps and all the information.
So is that mostly Area A? So yeah.
That's
So-
why Mark's here.
Yeah. So there is a push. Flinro provided a grant to TODA to do a study and recommendations, and they have finished that, and that's from the Kootenays all the way through. They're looking for connectivity all the way through Naramata to Kelowna, North Okanagan. So they have a report that I believe is completed and gone to Minister Donaldson with their recommendations. So I think the timing is really good to be pushing for some work to be done, because they did pay for this study to happen. But we have not received it, have we, Bill? A copy from TODA yet? I think just because it's with the minister.
No, I know we've received the one that was commissioned by the province that the Canadian Wildlife Federation did around that Bassaw Lake area. But as far as just what's going to happen in Area A, I'd have to go back and get an update. Maybe the good idea would be for us to get a hold of Barry and just find out exactly what the town's plans are and where we would fit in, and then we could bring it back to another meeting, sort of jointly.
Okay. That work?
Yep.
CJ?
If I could just mention, once again, just for clarity, it's a very, very short area that's not covered. We have trails that go all the way down to 100th Avenue, which probably doesn't mean anything to you, but that's well into the regional district already, and we haven't, they kind of meander from our airport all through that area up there. So it's just a matter of connecting that to the existing trail that we have right now. Regrettably, it's on the other side of the highway and that type of thing. So.
Okay. So that's the first one. So economic development. Mr. Romanko, would you like to speak to that?
Well, and just looking at council's initiatives, so in the next couple of weeks, they're going to be sitting down and talking economic development, where council wants to proceed in this particular area. Economic development's always driven as a regional type of product, because certainly in this region, the impacts of the agriculture, the wine industry on the town, and I guess it's kind of letting the regional district know that economic development is on the radar of this council, and if there is some initiative that the regional district, Area A, is contemplating relative to economic development, this would be a good time to have a joint discussion on it.
Have you got anything, Mark?
Well, I'm open to ideas on that, but a specific goal in mind, nothing right at this point.
Okay.
Now, is there an internal economic development function, or is it all through destination
No,
associates?
we've moved it internally, so
Oh, yeah.
so council is now wanting to look at we've had some initiatives since it's moved internally this budget period, but we're at a point now that council wants to take a look at are we going to do a strategic plan for economic development? What are the priorities going to be? And certainly the economy is a big part of Area A, and it's one of these kind of interjurisdictional topics that it's nice to have that level of joint sharing relative to information relative to what everybody else is doing in economic development.
So I know that we pay about, I think it's like $11,000 a year into destination associates through that partnership agreement, and there is the 3% MRDT that the board approves. So we don't really have much part of that. But
No.
So is this in addition? You're looking for something else?
Well, the Destination Associates has taken their product being destination marketing. That's all they do.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly tourism is a big part of our economic development, but there is a need to look beyond just tourism, and what are the operating parts of economic development, and how can we move those parts together, whether it be business retention or business development. We're actively involved now in an immigration program, bringing potential business people to the region, and again, we bring them to town, but there's also the region as a whole that benefits from that. So.
Well, we have the service, and it seems like the director is interested, so
Yeah.
it'd be a matter of working out the details.
Okay.
Okay.
Future
CJ?
meetings.
Um,
More meetings? Yes.
So I thought I would take this opportunity to maybe complain a little bit about something and ask, like I haven't asked, that economic development entails so many different things, and I'll bring forward the winery that's right on our town boundary, north, right across from the Shell service station. Great facility, well planned out, real good corporate people. They seem to be doing a really good business. But I wanted to mention that when that was built, it was about 40% built out before we even realized as a community what it was. And I've talked to Mr. Garish a couple of times about it. If there's some way we could work out a plan that when these developments are so close to our boundary, if we could be notified about it, just to try to emphasize. I mean, what if it was like a nuclear power plant that was getting built there? We'd kind of like to know about it. Another example is when we had that nasty car junkyard that was kind of developing up there in the regional district. We worked really well to cure that problem and get all of that unsightly stuff out of there. The problem is that when people visit our community, they don't view that as being a regional district property. It's we all know about it, but most people that look at it don't. They just assume that it's within our community, and it's always kind of nice to have that information. And if there was some way that, I'm not suggesting that we be part of the planning. I don't think that's my objective here. We just kind of like to know what it is. If those, kind of shared border developments come down the road in the future, that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, that's completely fair. I'm not sure how we got so far along on the winery without referring it over to you. And it really depends on what sort of application comes in and how it gets sent out.
Well, I think we found out all the details on it because we asked Mr. Garish about it, because I think he was kind of heading that project up in their planning department and that kind of thing. And it's just always nice to know.
I know we do referrals back and forth. We often get referrals from the town if it's just on your side of the boundary, but as to why that one slipped through, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Well, I can speak a little bit to that because I was probably in the same boat. If they've actually got the proper zoning and everything, and there's really no application other than a building permit,
You would never hear about it.
we don't hear about it. Because I was wondering, what in the world's getting built there for quite a while? I actually had to go ask myself.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we can improve that to let folks know. But
is that the one we got surprised on the dock? as well?
No, that was a different one.
No. There was the other example of that winery on Lakeshore Drive. I think that was in the same category of it had all the agricultural zoning and that, and there was, in that particular project, is actually in the center of our community because of the way the boundaries were, and we had no idea what was happening, and in that case too, there are things like drainage issues and that affect our community that we were never apprised of.
Yeah, we should certainly work closer together. We did have one item on the agenda, coordinated official community plan process. So Area A is on our schedule to start on OCP and zoning bylaw review at the end of this year, sort of this fall. And we understand that the town is contemplating a review of their OCP. And we're wondering, clearly they'd have to be two different bylaws, but whether there might be some sort of a coordination opportunity in the development of the plans.
The last time that we did, 10, 12 years ago, it was done at the same time, Area A and the town, because I was on the APC for Area A and we were doing it. And actually we did have one or two meetings with the town on that particular, on the issues. We are well on our way to getting this started. We've hired a company and it will be started this summer. It's Urban Systems, isn't it?
Urban Systems has been contracted, and they'll be at council's meeting on the 15th to. We had this last meeting. We had an administrative report relative to the process being underway, and then on the 15th, Urban Systems is coming to council to talk about the public consultation process and to receive public input. So. Again, I don't know if our planning director is aware of what the initiatives are being planned for Area A, but it's something that we'll connect on.
Okay.
And we could certainly mention it to Urban Systems when they come, because we're going to be asking questions and finding out what their plans are. And we'll just say, there definitely could be some things that we should know about each other's. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And if it is, if it looks feasible, it might be even something that we sole source to get the same consultant. We can talk about that.
Okay. All right. So next, the other thing that we have on here is victim services, and I'm going to ask Miss Van Vienen, who says their name's Claude Moreira today, but I know that's wrong. So Jeanette, would you like to fill him in on this one?
Well, if I could just speak to that.
Absolutely, no problem.
Because Jeanette didn't come prepared to speak, but I did. But I think this is one where there's a success story that needed to be shared relative to the regional district and the town cooperating in this particular area, the importance of this particular service to the town and to the area as well. Just providing members of the regional district board the information that council is going to, it's on their list to go to UBCM and ask the Solicitor General for more monies to be put into this program. Director Van Yenen met with the minister and the RCMP about 3 weeks ago, had a discussion on this particular area. And this is an area that is underfunded relative to the program. We've been, administering it. You've been paying part of the administration, and it's been really, really good that way. But there needs to be given the province's contribution to social services. This is an area that needs to be explored more with the minister, and council has met with the minister before on this in this area. But we feel that there's a need to keep that constant pressure on them relative to this topic area.
And we already do share with Oliver, there's in this issue, and there's somebody in Oliver and then the gal in Osoyoos that's been here forever, but they just don't have enough hours to deal with things, especially when they're taking people to court or it just sometimes the particular problem takes many hours, and they end up putting in overtime and not getting paid for it, I think. So is that all that we? Anything else, Jeanette? Did you have any? You go ahead.
You want to put your mic on? There.
Yeah, so they do only get 18 hours in Oliver and 18 hours in Osoyoos, and they cover areas A and C as well as the Osoyoos Indian Band, and it is one person that is working for both. So last year we did receive an extra $5,000 each community for victim services to hire a part-time person, which we are now doing, but it's still not enough to fill the void, and we did talk to the minister about that, so we're hoping that with council meeting with them at the UBCM, we might put more pressure on them. Yeah.
Okay.
Right, so areas A and C pay into this, correct?
We pay about $4,500 for a size.
Right.
Which ministry is that?
Solicitor General and Public Safety Minister. Farnworth, yes, Mike Farnworth.
If there's an opportunity, and I would attend that with council if it works out.
I think it's really important that if we have meetings that are set up, and the RDOS does too, that we sort of know when those are and what they are, because it's possible people may want to. For sure. Mark. Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Great.
Okay. The seasonal farm labor housing. I know housing is a huge issue everywhere, various forms of housing. But this seems to be an ongoing one. It certainly hits Osoyoos first, because normally we have the earliest cherries and peaches and so on. We've many different things have been tried over the years. I remember even I can't remember, Mark, 10 years ago we were thinking about setting up a camp. It just was too onerous to get all of the public health and everything organized, and it was dropped. But we still need to deal with this issue because it continues to be a concern for RCMP, for bylaw officers, for kids and adults who come to town wanting to work and then assume that they can find a place. So it can be a safety issue too, because sometimes they go up into the hills and light fires and that kind of thing. It probably should be more on the shoulders of the employers, the orchardists and the farmers. However, that's a tricky one. So I wasn't sure whether there were other things in the regional district directors and other municipalities that were looking at this issue as well. Do we know? Did
We're
it come up?
continually looking at it from various parts of the regional district. The only formal farm workers housing that we have is probably the Loose Bay campground in Area C, and sort of mixed results on how beneficial that one is as well. It's always I think enforcement's always an issue, and that is done through, I think, a growers association.
Yes.
That manages that for us, and we have a water system that runs up to it for showers and various things, but we don't have much to do with the management. It's done through an employers association.
Right.
Do you have the same problem in Karamias, Manfred?
Well, we used to, I mean, as you said, 10, 15 years ago, I remember, we had meetings with the federal government, the province, growers association, but in the end, and it didn't take long after the meeting, it just fell apart because nobody wants to pay for it. It's a difficult sell to the taxpayer because it is the employees of, mostly the farmers. Now, right now we have, like last year we had about 450 Mexican workers under the seasonal workers program, so there isn't a great demand anymore because mostly even the last holdouts who didn't want to hire Mexicans are now switching to Mexicans. And I talk to farmers all the time. That's what it is. They're reliable for us. They're clean. They don't have issues. And under that program, as you know, you have to provide all the amenities, basic amenities that should be provided for other workers too. So it's a very difficult sell to the taxpayers. But since it turned out that whole area in Karamias by the river was a private property, and we put signs up. We haven't had anything in the last 2 years in terms of complaints.
Okay.
They either, I guess, go to Osoyos, and the few who we do have, they stay in the farms or on the farms. So it hasn't been an issue with us.
So I think our concern is mainly here is that we get people who come to pick, say, cherries, and they're here for 3 or 4 weeks, and then they move somewhere else. So it's a very short-term need. Last year we did have the Baptist Church allowed people to camp in the back there, but that is going through a process right now because it wasn't zoned properly, and there were concerns from various people in the community about that. So we continue to look at this and try and come up with different solutions, but it's been an ongoing problem. I've lived here 50 years, and I certainly have seen it in its various stages over that whole time.
So just to that, I remember when Minister Thompson at the time, that's way back, used to be Minister of Agriculture, and we talked to him about that, exactly that same topic. And they would not budge on that side. They would just say, this is the responsibility of the grower and la-di-da, because if you provide it for these employees, what about hospitality industry who are seasonal too? They should be having a sort of that whole conversation. So I don't think we're going to get help from the province. And it's a very difficult subject.
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely.
So we have several different types of housing needed here. Hospitality industry, usually they need housing for, say, 8 months out of the year, not totally full-time, but these are the seasonal workers who only come for very short times. They seem to be the things that cause concerns because they come and they haven't got a place to go. So they end up sometimes in the wrong place.
Right, so we have this in Marinata, but we've seen improvements over the years. We used to have a large number camping in our parks and on private property and got lots of complaints. So we have a volunteer group, and I can check with them. They do the annual farm workers supper that's coming up on Saturday evening, so I'll be attending that. I usually attend. They started that dinner. We feed about 250, 300 farm workers, and these are the ones that move around. So they'll come and they'll do a crop and they'll come out here and then they come back. So housing has been an issue for them, but I believe the volunteer group has been advocating and making sure that growers are providing accommodations and drinking water and facilities on their properties. And it has been improving. So I can check to see what they're doing. Is there a liaison group here that works with the worker?
Not that I know of, but
the Baptist Church.
Okay.
They said they'll be doing their they do about 4 dinners a year, and I suspect that there'll be one very, very shortly.
Yeah.
So there could be an opportunity to connect with,
Sure.
with the folks in Armada, and they, could explain what they've been doing to advocate,
Okay.
because we have seen improvements for sure.
So if you find out anything from there, can you give it to me, and
Yes.
I'll make sure that we get it passed on?
I will definitely ask.
Thank you very much. Sub-regional aquatic facility. Mr. Romanko, do you want to talk about that one?
Well, I guess this was an item that was on both agendas, seeing how discussions are bringing the feasibility of this facility back on stream again, and Oliver has volunteered to make a grant application for a feasibility study on the facility. So council has provided a letter of support for the grant application, and we'll see how successful it is, but my assumption is that the regional district has been approached as well for some type of letter of support for this grant application, or they will be.
Not to my knowledge.
Oh,
No.
okay. Yeah. I think the grant application deadline is August 19th or something. So it could very well be that they'll be approaching you very shortly. But through the inter-community meetings, this item has been brought back on the table as something to explore as a joint area. And council has met with the Osoyoos Indian Band on it as well. And there seems to be support again for it. So it's just a matter of doing the feasibility study as a start.
As a start. And then we look at how much it would cost and where it would go, and, so it's just a very small start. Yeah.
Now, is there on this grant, is there an applicant's portion that has
It's
to
a
be
25% match.
25?
So they'll be applying for $100,000. And from previous estimates, we felt that the cost would probably be about $130,000 to $140,000.
So if I recollect, back in 2018, A and C budgeted for a contribution towards that. Now, in regional district finances, that if it ends up as surplus at the end of the year, that goes away. So if our 2 electoral areas were expected to participate financially, you'd have to let us know, and we'd have to get it into the next year's budget.
So I would think that Oliver's taking the lead on this. Might they have asked the other?
I don't know, but I know that it actually was 2017, 2018.
Was it 2017?
Yeah, we started this whole process in 2017, but at that time we had an agreement, a cost-sharing agreement relative to on a per capita basis, and again, I don't know. Oliver's taking the lead on this, so but I'll be meeting with the Oliver CAO on Friday.
Okay.
And I'll have a discussion with him.
Well, let me know if you want us to play. You gotta let us know.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've got to have the money to be able to pay.
Okay.
Play or pay.
Hands up his boat.
So the Southwest Sewer System, is that, Mark, are you going to talk to that one?
Well, it was just another one of those projects that a lot of people contact me on, and I've always kind of put it off for the last few years because I did know the town was under some capacity issues at the sewer facility. I'm wondering if anything has changed in that regard and whether there's any opportunity to explore a project in the southwest section.
We haven't been formally approached. I know that we've had calls. The infrastructure is in place. The main line is in place relative to from the border to the town. Certainly, with the plan would be that main pipe comes into the main lift. So with the main lift, that'll help deal with additional capacities. Again, the policy of council is that the extension of municipal services only under the terms of coming into the boundaries. That's been the policy. That's been the policy I've communicated to people who have inquired to me. Council would have to revisit that, and certainly we do have a grant application out for the twinning of water, and the next project is going south into Area A. So again, it's it's the expansion of utility services under the existing policy.
So could it be done the same way as the Northwest Sewer project was? Because that's in most of it is in regional Area A, right?
It could be done in the same manner. Again, my sense is that what we would have to do is we would have to revisit our capacity study that we did in probably 2014 to see what the impacts of the additional units, the residential units, would be on our system, and then we're kind of driven by what our storage capacity is, and our ability to spray the effluent waters in the summer. So that would all be, my sense is that if we were going to go that way as a community, that we would need to revisit that capacity study.
Yeah. Okay. CJ?
Thanks. Could you maybe define that area, the southwest? That's a little, because I think it's important to understand that we have what we call our metal arc area. Would that include that ALR property or?
Close to the fire hall. And our new.
That's in town boundaries.
Yeah, it's within town boundaries, but the reason why I mention that is because our future probably entails building that out in a subdivision, very similar to the way it is, that small one behind the fire hall there. And, that would have a profound effect on our capacity as those are built in our community and that kind of thing. And so does that entail everything from the highway to the mountains and border and?
Well, I was thinking almost to the border, but more along the lake shore, below the road, sort of thing.
Highway 97 down from,
rather than up.
Haynes Point, yeah.
Okay. Similar to what we had done with the Northwest Sewer, to keep some of those septic systems from bleeding into the lake and stuff.
So you understand that, and you were intimately involved in it, when the Northwest Sewer project is brought up, those are the things that people wake up in the middle of the night screaming over the the challenges that we had with that. So I guess the positive thing is we learned a lot from that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can certainly apply it to anything else that comes along.
Okay, so the other things on the list are from the regional district. So is there anything there that you're would like to bring up?
So, Bill, do you want to give an update on the museum?
Sure. So this is the year. At the end of 2019, the home hardware lease expires, and the Museum Society will start their renovation and move in there in 2020. So as far as I understand, everything is set in order to allow that to happen. All of the lease agreements with the Museum Society are moving forward, and we still do pay, I think it's about like $70,000 a year on the purchase price of the home hardware, and we do that through taxation. And then we've been collecting the lease fees from home hardware for the last 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
Maybe longer.
5 years. No, it was a 5-year extension.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there was a period before that exhausted the current lease, and then we had the renewal.
Yeah.
And although that might have been just a 3.5-year renewal or something. But anyway, I think we've got about $600,000 sitting in the reserve. We get $105,000 a year from the lease fees. So that is, they've spent some of it just on maintenance, but generally it seems like we're all set. Anybody heard any different?
No, they're busy, dealing with architects and so on in Vancouver, and they're quite excited about that. Did you have anything to add to that?
Just that the last I heard is that Home Builders is targeting October for a completed building there.
Oh,
So that would put them well within the time frames to the move, and allowing the Museum Society to do its thing.
Do they officially take over the title on January the 1st, or could they get in earlier if what was an option?
Well, January 1st, I think, is the,
Official.
I think everybody wants lease money until
Yeah.
until the end.
Okay.
yeah, it's not title. We already have title.
Yeah.
It's just the
Yeah,
expiration.
the lease.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So did home builders build a new place
Yeah.
up on the
Yeah.
highway?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Right by the airstrip.
Big.
Oh,
Up there?
okay.
Mhm.
yeah,
Excellent.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because at some point they had sort of been wavering as to
I
whether
think
they were
it's
going to.
I think it's 17,000 square feet
Yeah, it's
plus
big.
Oh, good.
plus their storage yard.
Yeah. You
Excellent.
should drive by there. It's just up
Yeah.
the highway a bit when you go back. Yeah.
On the museum,
Yep.
with that funds that we've collected as the lease, there was always a discussion between myself and council in the past on should some of that money be set aside for future issues that may happen with that building. They're planning on almost renovating the whole thing. But that was a discussion that we've always been going to have, and then the lease got extended, and we never really ever got there. But now it seems that we're going to be actually starting construction on the new museum facility or the renovation. We need to maybe revisit that at some point. And is there a need to set some of that money into reserve, or do we just want to let the museum use it all as part of their renovations? Because if something happens, we really don't have a mechanism to get money to help them renovate or keep
Okay.
care of that building.
And gas tax money can be used for something?
Some of that, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So CJ and then Barry?
Thank you again. I'm really glad you brought that up, because I would definitely support putting some of that money into a reserve fund. I don't have no idea what formula we'd use to determine
nor
that.
do I.
I think one of the things that we need to know, it is an aging building, or an aged building, although there will be a retrofit and everything will be taken care of. But over time, regrettably, those costs of repair, if there's a roof issue or something like that, could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in that building and that kind of thing. And I think it would be very prudent of us to prepare for that and, have some negotiations. I don't know what formula that we would ever use for it. And I think one of the other things that needs to be brought up is there was a huge grant announcement that was made by the museum a little while ago, a few weeks ago. I'm not exactly sure what the fine details of it, but it was a huge grant opportunity. And I think they got it, did they not?
Yep.
To my knowledge, they got it. I don't know the details, whether it's a matching grant or just a grant. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it was 250,000, wasn't it?
Yeah, and just I've sat as a council representative on that. Many more opportunities will come down for them over the next period of time. The holdup has always been is you actually have to be there physically occupying the building in some capacity, and they don't give out grant money. Plus, the museum also has those benefactor opportunities as well. It'll come to fruition over the next little while. So it's all kind of good news. But as a regional district and a town, we do need to plan for huge expenses in the future and that kind of thing.
Can you comment on that?
The only comment I'll make is our director of finance would really enjoy to hear those discussions relative to
Yes.
some type of reserve fund, because it is something that the alternative to that, in the event of that something happening to the building. I recall the discussions being the building envelope, and having funds in place in the event of that. Some particular disaster relative to that. So having a reserve fund is certainly something that our administration is very, very keen on. But at the same time, understanding what potentially the museum is looking at in terms of what their capacities are to use that reserve.
Okay.
I think we were very lucky too. We had a
Oh, are you okay?
sorry.
Go ahead.
We were very lucky. We had a fellow move in town by the name of Larry Stone, who has a lot of building experience. In fact, he's good friends with the guys building the museum. So a lot of those questions, he's got that capability of being able to answer. So we're very lucky, and so he just moved here. So
And he
he's a
volunteered
volunteer. Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
They grabbed him quickly. CJ, go ahead.
Just so we don't leave any loose ends, what process would we have to follow to kickstart that? Do you look after that, Mark, or do we engage with you, or how does that get started?
Well, the regional district currently has those funds, but
Yeah.
they're not set into a specific reserve for the building. They're just a reserve at the moment, I think, for
Yeah.
the museum. So we would need to probably create a proper reserve for the building if that was something we wanted to do.
I'm stretching here, but I think we just developed a contribution agreement that is out to the society now to look at. So I'm not sure what we put in there.
Yeah, we'll have to revisit
Yeah,
it.
I'll have to look at it. Did you get a copy of that, Bear?
No.
I'll send you a copy of that. I know that we've drafted it, and I'm just not sure at what stage it is.
We'll note this as an action out of this particular meeting that we'll initiate a discussion
I think
probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I was going to say this would be perfect timing, because if they have expectations that are different than ours, we wouldn't want to go through that process. So now would probably be the best time.
Okay. Okay, we've got building inspection, or do you want to tackle solid waste management?
You want to do building inspection? Give them an update on the changes with building inspectors and
Yeah, so the 2018 Building Act came in with a new set of requirements for competency for building inspectors within the Act. So as of February 28th, 2021, there's 3 classes of building inspectors, and through the Building Officials Association, there are now going to be some accreditation requirements, just like other professions have. And what we're getting concerned about is that is going to be a tough to recruit type of position when those requirements hit. Certainly the class 1 is single family and duplex. And the class 2 then is the part 9 inspections under the Act right now, which is sort of in between residential and commercial industrial. And my understanding is that the educational requirements are getting stricter. The pass rate on the exams are about 33%. And then there's an actual working time after you pass an exam before you can qualify to test for the next level. So the concern is, and that's an aging profession, these guys are going to start retiring in mass pretty soon, is that certainly for single employee local governments, like the smaller local governments that have one building inspector, with the competition that's going to be around for those guys, I think there's going to be some movement around, and the opportunity to recruit or to train up is going to get stricter. Mm-hmm. So we're fine right now, because I always look at it from my point of view. I get worried about this stuff. And it all comes down to how long does it take to issue a building permit. And developers, when they have that window, want their permits right away. So the fewer you have, the longer it takes, and then that becomes an issue as far as development goes. Mm-hmm. We have 5 right now, 5 and a half, a manager, and then 3.5 building inspectors. So 4.5, because we got our satellite office in Princeton. And 4 of them are class 3s, so we're fine, and then the other one's a 2 and is training up. We fully expect that in the long run, we're going to be, again, a training organization where some of our more experienced ones are going to leave. We'll hire a Class 1 or some journeyman that can get a Class 1. And then over years, they will gradually work their way up into Class 2 and Class 3. For the smaller municipal members in the regional district, I think you're going to have the same problem. The city of Penticton is going to be fine. They have 6 or 7 building inspectors, so they've got that capability of coverage. But I know District of Summerland is out now for the 3rd time trying to recruit a building inspector. Town of Princeton is out for the 2nd time trying to recruit. And in the meantime, we fill in roles for Princeton and Karamias as far as building inspection goes. District of Summerland, I'm not sure what they're doing. I guess they're they must be contracting with somebody to do it.
Okay.
But that is an issue. So what I was thinking, not sure what state you're in. I know Oliver's inspector is getting up there. He's probably within a year or 2 of retirement. And we have Princeton and Summerland without. We already do Karamias. As to whether there's an interest in looking at it from a bigger point of view. I've already talked with Director Pendergraft a long time ago now about whether there should be a sort of a south satellite office down in this area. So we could have those types of discussions if there was an interest.
Okay.
I thank the CAO for bringing this to the council's attention because, again, this is going to be probably a budget item that's going to be in front of council this year because we too have recognized that this is an issue. In our succession planning, we've identified the need for it. Our building inspector is a senior Class 3, and so we want to maintain those standards. So we've had discussions relative to setting up a training program and building our own person. But that's going to need an infusion of funds in our budgeting process if we're going to build it. But it is a concern. CAOs are a dime a dozen compared to building inspectors.
True.
So we won't have 88 people applying for this job?
No, you'll be lucky. Yeah. No, it is a concern. It is a concern at the municipal level that the new standards, and we've been very fortunate for the years to have a very capable building inspector, and so it's a matter of how we continue to those levels, whether it be on a shared basis or something in the future. But
we may need to look at that then.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess that's what I was relating to, whether it'd be interesting to form a partnership with possibly your satellite office and one person where we could share the costs.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like the physician recruitment. I get the impression that professionals don't really like to work alone. They like to have a backup so that they can take holidays and have some freedom of time. So if there is a pool, I think that would be more attractive when you're out recruiting as well, is that somebody comes in, knows there's backup, and that they can take their 2 or 3 weeks holidays without compromising the development profession in the area. So
you're not talking about a swimming pool. You're talking about a pool.
A swimming pool would help.
We've over the years we've had an arrangement with Oliver that when there's a shared arrangement relative to when on vacation times, and even though their building inspector I think is a level 2 and ours is a level 3.
We've filled in for the more complex.
And so, but it is it is an issue that needs to be addressed, and something that is on our radar. So
okay. Well, let's continue to talk about this then, because it's obviously
and so much of it is development driven as well, because as you know, we had some lean years, and and our building inspector moved into fire inspection in town as well. to fill those gaps. So.
Okay. All right, so we'll continue with that one.
Okay.
And solid waste management.
These next two are just sort of a heads up. The solid waste management plan is a regulatory document. It's a requirement for regional districts to have a regional solid waste management plan. So every 5 years, same as most statutory documents, every 5 years you're supposed to do a review. A lot of stuff happening with solid waste in the regional district. So 2020 is our year to commence a review of that plan, and obviously our 6-member municipalities will be fully engaged in that. So again, just a heads up that we'll be after you for time in order to consult on that.
Okay.
The regional growth strategy is another of those statutory documents. You don't have to have one, but once you have one, you got to keep it and you got to maintain it and update it. So for the Okanagan Valley, we have the regional growth plan. We don't have one in the Similkameen, but certainly the one in the Okanagan is alive and well. So this is the document where we identify growth areas. You'll recall Willow Beach was identified in our current plan. So it becomes a source of contention, sort of between often the urban directors and the rural directors as to where growth should occur. The philosophy is that it should grow around high-density urban areas so that you don't get that spillover out in the middle of nowhere. As soon as you get a house, you know that eventually they're going to want services. So the chances are that you want to try and encourage development around urban municipalities. And usually when they want urban services, that's when you think about annexation into the urban municipality. So we haven't had a major amendment on the regional growth strategy since it was promulgated, I guess, back in 2008, 8 or 9, so probably for 10 years. So this will be the revisit to it. And not only do we have to involve all the member municipalities, we also involve the adjacent regional districts. They get a chance to comment.
I thought
on it
we
too.
did one sort of an update on
did a
it quite
minor.
recently. Yeah, minor.
Yeah, they classify them as minor or major amendments.
Yeah.
And there's a whole different process
Okay.
depending on what it's classified as.
Okay. Barry?
Can I just take us back to waste management for a second? Is it possible to get a Coles Notes update on the composting, where that is at? I know it's been discussed at the regional table, but I don't know that all members of council are informed on where that is at.
Well, that's a long story.
That's why I said the Coles Notes version.
So in the solid waste management plan, it does talk about a regional organics facility, and there is a need for one. There's a business case for one. Right now, we charge $110 per ton to go into our 4 landfills, and the business case on a regional organics site is about $60 a ton for organics. So it would be cheaper if we had a separate organics site in order to collect and treat that material. So we're talking about mostly about food waste here. So garden waste, food waste, and in the case of Penticton, they're biosolids, which they operate now. They have their own compost facility for biosolids, which is not in compliance anymore. So under our lease agreement with the city for the Campbell Mountain landfill, we are obligated to find them a spot for their new organics facility as well. We're also not in compliance at Campbell Mountain on the landfill gas management regulation. Since 2016, we have supposed to have been building an active gas capture system for the methane that comes up out of a landfill. And we determined that it wasn't going to be beneficial for us. It's all done on a modeling basis, and in our experience, the models that the province uses often aren't accurate enough to really be successful. In fact, in Vernon's case, they don't generate enough methane to flare off of their active gas capture system, so it's just a failure. There is a section in the Act called the Substituted Requirements section that says local government can apply to the province for a different methodology rather than just active gas capture. We believe that this biocover project would be the more beneficial methodology for us. First of all, it's depending on who you talk to, between $25 and $40 million less expensive. And it would seem to be more productive in that it uses the biosolids, which are turned into biocover, and you mix the biocover with sand and wood chips, and it strains out the methane. You just cover your landfill instead of putting all the pipes and piezometers and wells to draw out the methane. So, but one of the conditions, so we did some pilots, and we have our application into the province now for a substituted requirement for the biocover methodology. One of the requirements that we believe the province will insist on is that we remove organics from the active phase in order to make this biocover process work. We started out looking for a regional organics site, and we did lots of studies over, everything takes years for us, but we had some significant grants from the Green Fund program out of FCM, and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars looking for potential sites, and they identified a lot of them. We narrowed it down to 2, and neither of the 2 were publicly acceptable. So we're sort of back to the drawing board. What our Public Works Department is suggesting now is that we may have to look at sort of 2 sub-regional, one for the south, one for the north, sort of a deal. We do have space at the Oliver landfill for the south one, and we have just applied for a grant to develop that one. We still haven't located one for the north, but we think it's probably going to have to be close to the Penticton, because that's the centroid. Always the cost with these types of things is the transportation to get the material there. So the further away it is from everybody, the more, the weaker your business case is. So instead of $60 a ton, it would be much closer to what it just costs for mixed waste. So we're right in the middle of that right now, and it's still going to be a work in progress for probably years.
Yeah. You got it?
I knew it. But I guess, part of it is, the kind of the projection of when it may happen in the south, because we would have to set up a composting program, and we need lead time relative to that. So this is not something that is imminent.
No.
No.
Not within your
Okay.
time frame.
Okay. Well, what time frame are you talking about?
Within your council
Might
time
be
frame.
3 years. CJ, did you have a question?
Thanks. So I'll use this opportunity to let you know about my displeasure that Osoyoos has never been really included or even shortlisted on those opportunities through this entire process. I can remember sitting with Cameron as our representative in the solid waste management thing, and the shock of knowing that over 60% of the contents in our landfills is organic material. And everyone around this table has heard me rant and sometimes rage about it. I've always been a big supporter. I would have liked to have seen our community shortlisted down, because at the end of the day, when you look at the science and all of those things. And I get it. We're the furthest distance away that you could be, and probably the most costly, but it's never been explored that there was a willingness in our community to engage in this, where it's been stonewalled in almost every other community in the regional district. So I'm going to keep on doing it. I know Oliver is moving forward and that kind of thing, but I still feel that we should have been, more engaged in it. And I say that only because we've clearly demonstrated over the last 20 years that we're not too bad at running landfill facilities, and certainly some of that expertise can be transferred into a composting facility, to simplify the terminology on it. So I think I'm expressing my displeasure and also a willingness to look at opportunities if everything else fails in the future and that kind of thing. So
No, I appreciate
Yeah.
it. You're the first community that's expressed an interest in.
well, I'm not saying
person.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying that there's an overwhelming willingness.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows for sure until you become engaged in it. Mine was more not exploring that opportunity in the past, and
I'll have to check CJ. I know there were like 20 sites out of the original study that were identified, and then through a weighting process, like they look at transportation distances and services available and all these other variables that they attached a point rating to come up with a metric, and then we sort of going down from sort of the best or the highest rated down to the lowest.
I think we were 18th on that list.
So they did look at something down here?
Yep, it
Yeah,
was on
okay.
that original.
Yeah, but
I
it
know
was-
we looked at the Campbell Mountain landfill, and that was too expensive, and Summerland just flatly refused, and
Yeah.
Marin Valley
Yeah.
was a public
Those are the two.
concern. So it's open. So I'll
Well,
certainly take that back.
I think my point is that at that time there was a great deal of excitement about the top 5 opportunities, and every one of those have come and gone, and now
Yeah.
we're down to, any opportunity that might come along. So, I might get beat up after this meeting about it, but at least know that, it should be explored in a little bit more detail.
I'll be right in your corner.
So we maybe need to look at that again, but I think that there were some reasons why Asuyas was not included in the top of those, so, roads and space and that type of thing. However, we have to look at all those options again, don't we, if the first two didn't work?
Yeah, we are. The centroid is for the regional district is right around the Marin Valley. So of course, the further you get away from that, the more expensive it gets. And for our guys, it was just that point rating and the business case.
Yeah. Okay, and I
Nothing
know
personal against the Soyuz.
Well, and that's the third time I've said it. All of those opportunities have
Yeah.
come and gone, and looks like they'll never be re-energized again.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure how much time you guys had, but do you want to pick and choose what you'd like to talk to us about here?
Do you want to update them on the emergency management?
Physician recruitment, or not necessarily that part of it, but the South Okanagan General Hospital is certainly an issue that Oliver and Asuyas are looking at very carefully, and we have asked for a meeting with the minister to discuss this. So, just so that you know that.
Yeah, I didn't have much new on that one. I know there is that meeting this Friday through the Division of Family Practice. Tracy Sinclair's called another meeting as a follow-up to one that was a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Are you going to that?
I don't know. I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, that's what I said to Petra. What the invitation wasn't sent out to everyone who was.
No.
Yeah, they said they sent it to everyone that attended the last meeting in Penticton at the community center. Were you there, Sue?
I probably wasn't.
wasn't.
Myers, you weren't there? No?
So,
But none of the
Nobody
Soyuz
from the
council.
Soyuz?
And it was likely that there was something else on. I would be happy to get that information if I'm allowed to. Could somebody send it to me?
And again, not our meeting, so I hesitate to invite people to somebody else's
yeah.
meeting, but we can certainly send it.
well, and,
It's the one that Riley did?
yeah, you might want to
Okay,
reach
and
out to Riley
And we
'cause
couldn't.
they coordinated
Okay,
it.
I'll contact Riley.
Okay. The only, just an update on Coniford Lake. You know that the Osoyoos Indian Band was very concerned about Spotted Lake, about sort of storm runoff through Coniford into Spotted Lake. They were successful in lobbying the minister to have it pumped down. So we got an order from the Ministry of Forest, Lands, Natural Resources ordering us to take action to reduce the levels in Coniford. So we applied for an expense authorization form under EMBC, and we got up to $500,000, I believe it was, in order to reduce the levels of Coniford. So we are in the process of doing that. We didn't declare a state of local emergency because, in fact, we're worried that the water will be all gone before we get the pumps going. It's that low up there right now. But nevertheless, we have contracted a company to put in the pumps, and we're just working through access agreements with the 4 property owners in order to get the water out. It's like 2-kilometer sort of hose that we'll be using to get it out onto Mr. Elkink's property. And that should start fairly soon. And we've got a level that has been set by the engineers as to what the level of Coniford should go down to. So that is soon to be in progress.
Okay.
Where is that lake?
It's up on the summit.
Yeah.
Sort of.
It's the little lake just past Spotted Lake.
That just
On the-
started this year?
No, it's been there for a long time, but it was dry for
Yeah.
a number of years, and then just the last few years it
Yeah.
comes
That's
out
kind of weird, yeah.
and
It's all
was
on the lake
on the
there.
verge of overflowing.
Mhm.
Yeah, flooded that guy out a little
I
bit.
think it did flood last year.
Yes, it did.
Mhm.
This year,
Yeah,
not so
yeah.
much.
Not so much this year. No.
It's
Yeah.
still full of water.
Yeah.
Or it was.
There was water in it for sure.
Yeah.
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 Wasn't deemed to be
Okay.
an emergency though. Okay.
I'd like to just very briefly touch on the Sun Bowl Arena.
Yes?
Just to, and this may be an update or it may not be, but we are in the process of doing an asset, and following up with our asset management on that building. So we're just going to be releasing a request for proposals on a building assessment, and then we'll see what the results of that are. I think my assumption is it's been budgeted for, and we're working on that. So taking a look at how there are areas of that arena that need to be modernized and maybe expanded to meet what are current standards in arenas. So we wanted to take a look at the building as a whole as to where it sits relative to whether or not the value added of modernizing it. So that's one item, and the second one was that I guess we're in the process of researching the purchase of a new Zamboni, and we're looking at purchasing an electric Zamboni, and my understanding is that Area Director Pendergraft has said that he'd make a contribution through gas tax funding. So another good news story there.
Super.
Okay. Anything else there on your list that you... Regional transit? I hear we've got a bus service, right, Manfred, that's coming once a week through
I
here,
can
maybe?
give you an update on that one if you like. So I've been in contact with Mountain Man Mike's.
Yes.
And so it's not really what I would call public transportation. It's not accessible, so no wheelchair access or any other handicapped access. You have to order online to specific pickup points. They expect you to wait 20 minutes before the bus gets there, or approximately gets there, and you can wait up to 20 minutes after, depending on how many people they pick up. So it really means that you have to figure about 40 minutes on either side, which is also not acceptable, especially in the winter when we have seniors waiting out there. then the way the whole online booking system works. I don't know the prices yet. It's supposed to go online today, but this morning he hasn't had anything yet. So overall, when you look at the whole setup, only once a week, and what I just said, I don't think it's what I would call available public transportation. That, with this, we're gonna meet with the minister. The Village of Keremeos has asked for a meeting, and we're definitely going to talk about this is not acceptable. And from what I talked to Dan Albers about, he is basically waiting for the province to put a list together where you have corridors that are where there is no business case for private, entrepreneurs like this one. And so they would provide some sort of federal subsidy in collaboration with the province to get a reasonably acceptable public transportation going. So that's what we're going to talk to Minister Trevina about at UBCM. You're welcome to come along.
So we've already asked for a meeting?
I have asked. Oh, you
we
too
have
as well. Okay.
Who knows whether we'll get them? It depends how many.
Course, yeah.
But that was one of the ones that we requested too.
Okay, so let's see who gets the meeting. We can maybe, because if you have only one or two items, that's better than four or five, as you know, right? So
we can
work kind of coordinate. You can come with us, or
sure.
I can come with you, whatever, and we'll take Carla always anyway, because she really likes those meetings.
and she goes to hundreds of them.
Yeah, so I don't see that as something they have just, and I don't even know once he gets started with 22 people. He has a dozen stops before he gets to Keremeos. I mean, the bus could be full in Rock Creek, let's say.
Do you think that might be something that we could talk about on the Highway 3 Coalition? Maybe that's a regional transport thing.
We have started talking about it, if you remember, and the chair was very reluctant to get away from our original mandate in terms of Hope Princeton, and then the issue with Cassie and the tourism corridor. He was, I tried to get a letter from the mayors for Highway 3 regarding this, that there is a lack, and that hasn't happened. He has been completely non-respondent. I'm not happy with it.
So maybe what I'll do is write and say as well, so then they can hear from, and Spencer as well.
We've done it. I've sent multiple letters, and Kathy, as the vice chair, has intervened, and it still hasn't come back. And so I think we have to address that at UBCM.
Okay. Fair enough. So is there anybody else who has anything that they'd like to
Well, I just want to mention we have C2C on here. So we had our Keremeos meeting with Mayor and Council, and Mayor Coyne joined us from Princeton as well, and Chief Crow and Chief Enius were there. And Chief Enius was suggesting, it'd be great to get together again, and we haven't done a C2C in a while. So we're shooting for October at PIB in the Malkin Center, and I do have a meeting tomorrow with Chief Enius to review our draft agenda for the day, to see what his thoughts are on it, and to make sure we're still on track for October. So if we can get that nailed down in a date, we'll let you know, because of course we would be inviting the region and all of the First Nations bands.
Good.
All of council too.
Good, yeah. I think that's a good idea to do that. It's been a couple years since we've had one of those, right? Yeah.
So maybe I just wanted to mention, since you were talking about looking at economic development, and I mentioned that at the end of the last regional district board meeting, Keremeos has just put together a business and resident opportunities guide, and we've launched a social media campaign in Vancouver to attract young professionals, basically explaining the amenities, the affordability, opportunities, what we have. So if you're interested in that, you may want to get together with our CAO. And it is online also on our website, but the details of how the social media campaign works in terms of attraction, I think that might be something you would be interested in.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sure Barry knows Mark. So.
Okay. Okay. Is there anything else anybody would like to bring up or discuss? Well, there's no end of topics that we have to share and think about. Thank you very much to all of you for attending today and giving us your input on it and listening to what we have to say. And it's really important that we all sort of work together. So I'm assuming that once we get a list of meetings at the regional district, then we can likely share that and just see where we can coordinate if necessary. And I think Linda Larson always likes to be aware of that as well, because she tries to attend if she can. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mayor McCordoff and council and staff for having us out here today. And we'll share what meetings we get booked.
Okay.
Also, just keep in mind, SILGA has also put in for a list of minister meetings.
Yes.
So the SILGA executive will often be dealing with region-wide issues. So we'll try to make sure we share those, so you know what topics we are pursuing through SILGA.
Good. Thank you. So, thank you very much, and I would need a motion, please, to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, Councillor Bennett and Councillor Harvey. All in favor? Good. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.